Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator, and today we are back on our Cessna Citation Longitude and we're going to be flying from Las Vegas, Nevada over to Seattle, Washington. This will basically be a full flight tutorial as I will not leave any steps that I take out of the video. So grab yourself a drink and climb on aboard because here we go. If you are interested in acquiring my Overkill's Cessna Citation Longitude guide from Microsoft Flight Simulator, consider joining my Patreon site at level tier 2 or above. That's $10 or more, which will give you access to all of the Overkill tutorial guides. Please keep in mind with Patreon, you do not have to subscribe each and every month. Once you subscribe, you will be charged $10. You will have access to all of the guides, and if you wish, you can then cancel the subscription, and you will maintain access to Patreon until the first of the following month. So, with that in mind, let's talk about what this guide is. This guide gives you a full flight tutorial from Boston to Minneapolis. It also walks you through installing any modifications that I use for this aircraft, a full cockpit tutorial, breaking down how to create your flight plan using SimBrief, which is a free service, and then completing the flight successfully. If there are any questions, you're always welcome to give feedback, as joining my Patreon site gives you access to my Discord channel as well, giving you direct access and communication to me. So once again, if you guys are interested, please consider joining the Patreon. It definitely helps support the channel and keeps the content coming, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. All right, first off, as we get started in the video, I want to talk about the Cessna Citation Longitude guide that I have made and give you guys an update on its current status for the next version. Initially, I was not going to do a full screenshot pictorial layout of the G5000 suite. I was sort of operating under the mental impression that if you know how to use the G3000, you know how to use the G5000. However, then came that dawn of incredible logic and saying, well, what if they don't know how to use the G3000? So anyway, I am working on that. Now, that shouldn't take too much longer. I'm about 50% complete with that because luckily I'm able to take most of the text from the G3000 and move it over to the G5000. It's getting all the individual pictures. That's a real pain in the rear. And then we will be looking into RNAV approaches and things like that into the guide. So I wanted to make sure that I get the basics in. That way, if anyone is new to any of these aircraft, you just picked up Microsoft Flight Simulator, you want to do the Longitude, you have all that information available. I just felt it wasn't thorough enough if I didn't add that in there. So it's a longer section. It's a pain to build those particular portions because you have to go through every single icon and screen. And as you guys know, as Working Title continues to develop it, it's getting quite extensive, which is a wonderful thing. But, you know, requires a bit of work. So, anyway, let's go ahead and get started with today's flight. I love all that traffic in the background, by the way. That's awesome. All right, so the first thing that we need to do, obviously, is create our flight plan. So we're at SimBrief here. I don't worry about the airline and flight number, things like that. I only typically do that with the big jets, and even then, sometimes I don't do that. But we are going from Las Vegas, and we're going to go to Seattle. Go over to SeaTac. Airframe, we're going to find the C700, if memory serves. Oh, nope, it's not the C700. Where are you? There you, oh, yes, it is. There it is. C700 Longitude. All right, cruise profile, Mach 0.82. That's pretty accurate. That's about the best that I can get out of it without having any issues. Reserve fuel, this is an IFR flight, so we want to make sure we have 45 minutes of extra fuel on board. Cruise profile, what this is indicating is we're going to first climb initially at our takeoff speed, then accelerate to 250 knots until we breach 10,000 feet. As anything below 10,000 in the United States, as you guys know, we are required to be at 250 or below. And then once we break 10,000 feet, we'll accelerate to 270 knots. Now, we'll be holding that until about 25 to 28,000 feet, at which point, if you remain in that speed, you'll see that the Mach rating has started to reach Mach 0.7-ish, Mach 0.8, 0.75-ish. At that point, we'll switch over to the Mach speed and then continue our climb at Mach 0.8. And then once we get to cruise, we'll accelerate to Mach 0.82. Okay, so I hope that made sense on how that all works. Same thing with the descent profile. We'll first slow the aircraft down to Mach 0.8, then we'll begin our descent. Once we reach about again, about 28 to 25,000 feet. We'll reduce to 290 knots, and then making sure we are down to 250 knots by the time we reach 10,000 feet, so we don't get yelled at by the FAA. Okay, so coming down, it looks like we're departing on runway 08 left today, and then arriving on 16 left in Seattle. Extra fuel, that's if you want extra on top of the reserve, so we're actually going to leave that as is. Altitude, we're going to let SimBrief tell us how high we're flying today. Business jets, you're always way up there, high 30s and into the 40s. And let's see here, passengers auto, cargo will leave auto. I'm not worried about either one of those, sort of just simulation purposes. Our route, we are looking at the Joker 1 SID, flying to Keno. From Keno, we will go direct to Oscar Alpha Lima, and then to Lomia, if I spelled that right, said that right, and then to Lima Kilo Victor, and then jumping on to the Hawks 7 arrival. So let's go ahead and come up top and hit Generate OFP. I know I say let's go ahead a lot, and I really do try not to. I don't know, it's just habit. I don't know. It's like, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. I've had a lot of caffeine this morning, guys, so sorry. Now I'm going to go see, there's the caffeine talking. Print view PDF. I find this to be the easiest way to navigate these flight plans. Gosh, can't talk. All right, so we have that all set up. Let's get into our cockpit and get the aircraft configured. So stepping into the office here, if you guys dare to follow along with me at this point, first thing we want to do is set our weights and balances. And what we're going to do is we're going to first take our fuel here, make sure we have our fuel on board. We're looking for 6,300 pounds of fuel. Right now we're looking at 72.96, so we can reduce that a bit. Come on. Ooh, almost. Nope. Come on. 44. Nope. 43. Okay, so 6275. All right, so I would rather take the 44. You guys can go through and type these out manually if you choose. I don't like to go that far into it. I just don't. I'll take the extra fuel. Again, for simulation purposes, it works out just fine. There's our route, and we're looking for payload. And we're looking for total payload, which is 2.3 thousand pounds. So again, I'm going to switch over to pounds here. And we are going to find payload, and we're going for 2.3. Is that what I said? Yep. Oh, wow. Went way too high. There we go. 2.326. I'm good with that. Center of gravity looks good on the Mac. I'm not going to worry about that either. So we are all set and ready to start applying some electrical power to this aircraft. All right, so first let's walk through a cockpit check here. We want to make sure the parking brake is set, throttles are at idle, spoilers are retracted and disarmed. I'm going to remove the yoke for a time being. Standby power switch, we're going to pull it down to the test position. And then now we're going to go batteries both on. There's left battery, there's right battery. We're going to come all the way to the back and get our APU turned on. So we're going to go APU start switch to the start position. Monitoring the APU performance here, you can see it right there in the bottom right. We're at about 30% there. Looking for 100%. Okay. And now let's move back up front. I think I have one here. Close enough. We'll move over here. Got the camera right? Okay. So next we want to do is take the APU Gen and do a reset on it first, and then go to on. The aircraft's now being powered by the APU. Then we'll come up top, and we want our recog lights on. And now we need to get our ATIS information. Now I'm just going to use B on the keyboard to set our altimeter pressure. 299999. 299999. I think I had too many niners in there. And then For night operations, if we needed to, we would turn our wing lights on, tail lights on, passenger safety lights need to come on. However, at this time they are inoperable. So safety lights would come on, seatbelt signs would come on, but emergency lights, we're going to go ahead and kick on to the arm position, and you would set your internal lights as desired at this point. From here, we're going to verify, simulating that we have received our ATC clearance. The reason why I'm not using the in-game ATC these days is I can't get the audio to work. I can get the messages to pop up on the screen, but nothing I do will bring the audio back. I don't know what's going on with that, so I've given up. All right, so let's set our transponder code, and we're going to do 0571 today. And press enter. Standby, we're going to set that, or transponder, set it to on. Let's hit back there. And now let's work on entering in our flight plan at this point. Just dawned on me real quick as I was peeking over here. The standby power switch also should have been turned on right before we turned our batteries on. So in case I missed that, I couldn't remember if I did that earlier and just bumped it, but I didn't think I did. So now let's get into our flight plan. Flight planning, always easy and fun. So we're going to set our destination as Kilo Lima Alpha Sierra, or our departure, excuse me, our destination as Kilo Sierra Echo Alpha. There we go, heading out to Seattle. Now we're going to go to our procedures, set departure. Our departure for today, what did we say was? Let's find out. The Joker 1. Oh, not this bug. No. Microsoft. Anyway. Oh. Okay, are we good? I think we're good. We're going to try to continue. We'll see if we don't have any issues. All right, so the Joker 1, using the Cano transition, that is correct. We are departing on 08 left today. There it is right there. We're going to go ahead and hit load. Go back a page and check out our arrival. And for the arrival, we're looking at the Hawks 7. There it is. And let's find out if they have our transition. There it is, Lima Kilo Victor. Let's hit load. Actually, I think that runway is incorrect. Yep, that runway is wrong. We're using 16 left. Now hit load. All right, and finally we can set up the approach. So ILS 16, but we're using 16 left. And let's see here what we've got. We need to find out what our transition point is. So for that, let's come here, go to charts. Charts data fail. If it ever does this to you, okay, this does not mean you have to resubscribe it. Okay, what this typically means is you want to come here, type in your airport code, even if it's the same one that was already on. And usually it will display. Come on. Well, maybe we do need to reset it up. Last time all I had to do was that. That sucks. So let's go to Utilities, Setup, Database, Navigraph. Ah, link account. Oh, let me sign in first. Okay. Yes, allow. And let's try that again. That's weird. So this happened to me the other day in the TBM 930, and all I had to do was change the ICAO, but I guess I need to put my foot in my mouth on that one. So let's try to go into our charts again, although it's still showing charts data fail. There it goes. All right, so we're checking on the approaches here is what we were taking a look at. And what did we say? We're coming in on 16 left. And now let's check a look. There's the runway. We got Payne VOR. Griffey be coming in from the north. So we're going to be coming in probably like this. Let's take a look at that star real quick. So we'll go to the arrivals and find our Hawks. All right, so that's SeaTac. Now we said our transition onto it was Lima Kilo Victor, so we're going to come in this way. Let's find out what our last route is here. Vashin. All right, so it's got us coming way up here. Okay, so we're going to be coming in. So I'll show you guys what we're doing here. So we're coming in from the south. We're going to fly up this route here, do Vashin, which is going to put us, if we take a look at our approach now, for 1-6 left. We just need the Cat 1. So we're going to be coming in from over here. So our transition would actually be a nice transition point would probably be Griffey, if that's an option for us. Let's take a look. So let's go back. Let's go to our procedures, approach, 1-6, Griffey it is. So that works out perfectly. So, and if we just show on chart, let's show it on the map. Yeah, so we're going to come in just like this. So shave a little bit of distance off and then come in. So we're just going to have to watch our altitude, make sure we're where we belong by the time we reach Griffey. All right, so let's hit load. We're good there. We obviously don't want to activate it. And that is, as they say, is that. Now, let's go ahead and figure out the rest of the configuration for today's flight. So coming back to our flight plan here, now we need to start adding all the directs that were in between. So this is the SID, and now here's where we're at. So from Keno, as we see here, we can just do the add en route waypoint. And these are all direct, so it'll be pretty easy. So we're just going to do Keno to Oscar Alpha Lima, and then we can throw this one in. You can delimitate them with the route here. It's inserting after OAL. You can just keep on the same page. Then we're doing Lima Oscar Mike India Alpha. Is that right? Yep. All right, next route, and going to Lima Kilo Victor. Where are you? There you are. And press enter. And so now there's all 3 waypoints that we just entered. Saves a lot of time. You don't have to keep bouncing back to the different menus. I love what Working Title is doing with this thing. They're my heroes. Anyway, so we've got that part done. Let's take a look at the flight plan as a whole. Let's, oh, we're still looking at that. That's why. Let's go to the map. I was like, why does that look so weird? And what we're looking for here is just any odd behavior. Okay. Come on. Why can't I zoom out? Oh, I can't move out any further. That sucks. So let's do this. No, that's pretty straightforward. And what I'd be looking for here is any backtracks, any weird, like, let's say LKV was way out over here or something like that, and then we came back. Obviously, we wouldn't want to fly that particular route. That'd be a ton of burn of fuel, right? For no reason, and time lost. All right, so we are good to go there. Flight plan looks great, so now let's take a look at our performance numbers. All right, so to determine our performance numbers, we're going to need to first figure out what our total weight is. Now, if you guys are interested in the chart that I have available here, you guys can find this by simply joining Patreon. $10 or more gives you access to all of my guides. That's tier 2 or above. I have the Longitude guide, TBM 930 guide, A320 guide, and the G1000 guide. But this is included in it, or you can feel free to take a screenshot of this. It's not classified information or anything. Anyway, so we're going to first figure out what our total weight is, and we're also going to need our CG or our MAC. So let's go ahead and take a look at that for a second. So we've got a MAC of 27.83%. So if we come over here, we need to find our 27.83. Looks like it's right about here. Yeah, well, 27.8. So that's going to be just shy of 28. So we follow that down here. We're looking at negative 5.5 degrees. 5.5, 5.2, somewhere around there. So 5.5 down angle on the trim. And then let's take a look at our total weight. Total weight is going to be 32,135 pounds today for takeoff. And so that puts us right in here. So here are our V speeds calculated. Now you can do your math even tighter if you wish and break down what the exact numbers would be. I just use the chart here. And this is also for any runway in excess of 5,000 feet. So let's set some goodies up. So what we're going to need to do is come back down to our... Sure, this is good. Where are you? Thank you. Gosh. Our speed bugs here. And so V1 we're going to be setting at 114 knots today. V rotate is 115 knots. V2 we're going to be looking at 126 knots. And FTO is always 185 knots. This is maximum takeoff speed. At 185 knots, those wheels better be off the ground. So enter there. And what do we want today? I just want the primary 3. Again, if you're not off the ground by 185 knots, you just didn't feel like flying. Okay, so let's go ahead and back on up. Now, setting the trim is a little bit more of a pain in the butt because as you can see here, we don't have any kind of indication that actually tells us what the trim setting is. So what you have to do, and normally I would edit this out, but I want you guys to see it, is you have to come into the sim, you have to go to accessibility if memory serves, and cockpit tooltips, turn them on, then come back into your sim. And again, we are looking for, and I recommend using put your mouse over and then use whatever you have mapped for your trim. And we're looking for about 5.2 on the down. Come on, there it is. All right. And then I immediately go back in and turn that crap off because I hate tooltips. Apply and save. There we go. Resume. All right. Golden. Get out of here. I didn't tell you to come back yet. All right, so now we have all of our performance numbers entered. We have our trim set. And so now it's just a matter of completing the startup process for the aircraft. We'll get the engines rolling and we will get on down the road. All right, so for our startup, first thing we do is we need to come over to the Pilot TSC touchscreen controller, change our nav source, make sure it shows the FMS for our flight plan. Come up top to the autopilot panel and make sure our flight directors are turned on. We need to set our initial altitude. We're going to depart via the SID today, so again, we can come to our charts. Where'd you go? Where did it go? Oh, helps if I'm on the right airport. There it is. Ah, so much better. Okay, so let's see where we're at. Looks like our initial altitude we need to be above 2,600. And below 11,000. Okay, so let's set it for 11,000 feet. Well, actually, we'll set it for 10,000. So, setting initial altitude. For 10,000. Set our initial speed. We want to make sure we're on manual speed. And for this particular aircraft, I leave it on manual all the time. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons why I am starting to have such a much better time flying it, is I'm not letting the auto throttle control the speed. In the aspect, I should say the FMS control the speed. And we want to set for 185 knots as our initial speed. Again, maximum takeoff speed. And then once we are airborne, we will rapidly increase that to 250 knots. All right. And other than that, I think we are ready to go. So it's just a matter of doing a final parking check here. So we have our parking brake is still set, wheel chocks have been removed, spoilers are retracted, throttles are still at idle, flaps are retracted, and now it's time to turn the anti-collision lights to on. So let's find our anti-collision lights. Anti-collision lights are on. And now let's get into starting these engines up. So we're going to come on down to the back here. We're going to hit our start switch, open the gate here. Now what we're going to be looking for is 8% on the N2. There it is. Once we get 8%, hit that run button. And we'll just hold tight until the engine stabilizes. All right, let's go ahead and start engine 1. That should not already show the run. That's a bug. You tap one, it taps the other, and then sometimes it turns off, sometimes it doesn't. It's really weird. It's like we're above 8%. We'll tap it. And make sure it's cycled. And again, just waiting for the engines to go to idle. All right, with both engines now at idle. Left gen reset. Right gen reset. Left gen on. Right gen on. Bus tie open. APU gen now off. And coming on back. APU off. All right, come back up top for a minute. We're going to throw our taxi light on. Come on. Wing lights on. Do one last final check. Make sure you have the aircraft configured as desired. Set up your goodies here as you'd like to have it. And that's all I'm doing here. Nothing procedural. I'm just making sure she's set up the way I want her set up. Go ahead and turn on nav mode. Now, nav mode compared to heading, so good practice. Whenever you line up with the runway, you should always be centering your, give that a tap. You can notice it centers the heading bug. We'll do that again as we line up with the runway. And that way, you know, when you take off and you use the autopilot, if you're told to fly runway heading, you can just go to heading mode and boom. So I set it up, but typically I'm ready in nav mode. That way when I activate the autopilot, it just starts flying the course, and that's because I don't use ATC. I don't use ATC because I can't get it to work. But anyway, so that is it for our startup process. We are ready to roll, so let's go ahead and get rolling out of here. All right, so we're just going to release the parking brake now, and the reason why is because we don't necessarily have a tug. Well, we might. Sometimes I get a tug on this aircraft and sometimes I don't. So we'll just have to see what happens. Doesn't look, oh yeah, see? Sometimes that thing moves for me and sometimes it doesn't. It's really weird. Now what's nice about this though is that you can steer it with your rotor pedals. So I think that's kind of cool. Alright, so we're going to actually need to probably turn the other way, but that's alright. here, we'll stop the pushback, end pushback, and from here we can taxi out under our own power. Alright, so we are lined up with the runway. I have flaps 2 set, and by the way, I have received so many conflicting reports on flap setting for takeoff in this aircraft. Flaps 2 seems to be the most common, so that's what I'm going with since we don't have access to the real world documentation. So we have flaps 2 set for takeoff, 185 knots in the speed box and 10,000 feet in our altitude setting. We have toga is armed. Now all we're going to do is we are going to power up to approximately 50% engine power, verify stability, and then arm the auto throttle. We'll be watching for V1. That was weird. Rotating? Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Positive rate. Gear up. Lining up with the flight directors. Setting our speed up to 250 knots. I recommend having these controls bound. Arming the autopilot. And it did not catch it, so at 20 knots above V2, flap should come up. I thought I tapped it, but I did not. We're going to go to flight level change and then increase our speed again, back up to 250. And we are on our way. Now remember, we have to hold at 10,000. Now, this is something I want you guys to be aware of because I made a mistake here. Looking at the SID, I missed a detail. We need to be above 8,000 feet here, so I was looking down the wrong path here. But you can see here, we're going to be coming this way. We need to be below 11,000, but here we need to be above 8,000, but we're supposed to be at a max speed of 230 knots. So that was a failure on my part. So we're going to slow it back down. So if you guys want to try to fly by the book, just be watching those chart restrictions. Because that was definitely a failure on my part. The 10,000 feet is fine, but the speed was not. Let's see which way we're going here. If we're going to rock, we can increase our altitude. But I gotta see where we're headed first. So we're going from Vampire over to Joker. But we actually don't have these two intermediate points in our flight plan, which is interesting. But those clearly connect. It looks like we're coming here and here. Yeah, so we need to stay below 11,000 until we pass Kruger. And then at Joker, we can continue our climb up to cruise. Alright, so we have passed our altitude restriction. So we're going to start climbing up towards our cruise altitude. We're going to take her all the way up. We're going to 43,000 feet today. Okay, and let's bring up a flight level change. And at this point, we are going to go ahead and climb at our 270 knots. Climbing through 10,000 feet now, or leaving 10,000 feet. We can turn lights off. I meant to turn the taxi light off, but oh well. Alright, so from here in the Cessna Citation Longitude, the climb out is extremely easy. Not a whole lot to watch for at this point. We are going to be switching over to Mach airspeed once we reach about 25,000 feet. At 18,000 feet, we're going to be switching over to the standard pressure of 29902. So I probably will skip the 18,000 feet report, but I will see you guys when we get to about 25,000 feet when we need to change our speed setting. Alright, so I'll see you guys in just a few minutes. This thing climbs very quickly. So we are now passing through 27,000 feet. You can see our Mach speed slowly climbing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on the speed roll, switch it over into Mach speed indicated. You can see that right here. And we're going to go to accelerate to Mach 0.80 for the climb. The aircraft will speed up, and then we'll resume our climb and continue up to 43,000 feet. So at the next report, guys, I'll be catching you as we start configuring the VNAV calculations, so that way we know when our top of descent is. So I'll catch you after a bit. So I wanted to show you guys something. Obviously we have an overspeed warning here, so I'm coming down to Mach 0.78. This is what I have in the guide. And now I remembered why. I was questioning myself because I was wondering why. Why did I do that? Oh, and we're on man. Dang it. Couldn't remember why I did that. Because the flight profile in SimBrief was indicating 0.8. But again, I think this is part of the flight model restrictions. And we are using a flight model modification, by the way. A link for that will be down in the description. But I did want to show you guys that change. As I said, any changes to the aircraft, I'll make sure that you guys see that in the video. That way you can follow along, and when you experience some of this stuff, you have answers. So, anyway, so all we did was slow down to Mach 0.78. We'll continue our climb to 43,000, and then we'll accelerate, hopefully, to Mach 0.82 if we can get her that fast. Alright, so we are up at our cruise altitude, so now let's go ahead and take a look at how to set up our top of descent. So, we're going to come on down to our FMC. And the other thing we're going to need is our charts again. So let's bring up the charts. We're just going to use the external app for this one. And what I'm going to do is find the approach chart. And I think we were set for 1/6 left. Is that right? Oh, looking at the wrong airfield again. Where the heck are we going? Seattle, right? There it is. I was gonna say, I knew I'd flown there before. Alright. So let's find the approach. 16 left. We need our touchdown altitude. So our touchdown zone, elevation right here. Okay, that's basically, we're down to sea level. We're going all the way down to the bottom. So what I like to do actually though is find our star. It's the Hawk 7, and I like to find the lowest altitude point, and I make that my target. And so we need to check our flight plan here. And let's see here. There's the star, and let's find our last waypoint in the star here. Citation, so 6,000 feet is the last point at the star at 210 knots. So we're going to use that, and we're going to come here to Vashon. We're going to go into the feet section, and we're going to set 6,000. We need to be at 6,000 feet. Okay? Now you can see all these previous altitudes start populating. Now, the only thing you need to do here, we can use this menu, is we need to go through and make sure that none of these locations are breaching the requirement. So, for example, let's let me move this back off screen for a second. I got to scroll up here. Wrong way. Okay, that's fine. There we go. So Hawks, we're at 20,866 feet plotted, and Hawks we need to be above 12,000. Now, at Pikes, we need to be between 15 and 12,000. So let's see where we're at by Pikes. We're at 17,000 feet, so we're too high. So what we can do for Pikes is we can now adjust that altitude. And let's sort of meet in the middle. Let's call it 13,000 feet. We can even do 13,500. Let's just sort of throw something in the middle there. And then all the numbers above should recalculate. Now let's look at Hawks again. Hawks now, again, above 12,000 feet. By Pikes, we're at our 13,500 feet. Moving forward, the next one is Breve, between 11 and 10,000. So we're good there. And then Nets, we need to be above 8,000. So right on the money there. And so everything else looks good. Key West need to be above 7,000. We're still there. And then Vashon 6,000. So there we go. We're good to go. So next what we need to do is just simply go to VNAV. VNAV enabled. And now you can see the first edited waypoint is 13,000 feet. This is our first target waypoint, essentially. Okay? And so we have feet required. We're going to be descending at 2,300 feet per minute. Now, this is saying 1 + 16 for time of descent. So let's take our top of descent. That's 1 hour, 16 minutes. So if we scroll out here, we should also be able to find, there it is. So let me find a better view here. I know this is kind of weird. What was I on? 7. There we go. So there is our top of descent. So what's going to happen is 1 minute before we reach that, we will get an alert right here underneath your altitude tape saying 1 minute till top of descent, at which point, hopefully before then, you should probably start slowing the aircraft down again. Oh, speaking of slowing the aircraft down, let's speed it up. So we are also at our cruise altitude, so let's speed the aircraft up to Mach 0.82. And then so shortly before we get to our top of descent, we'll slow the aircraft back down to Mach 0.80 and begin our descent. Now, just like we saw the overspeed warning, which it looks like we're going to get again. I don't know if we're going to make it to 0.82. We'll see. Well, I'm going to leave it at Mach 0.82, and if for any reason we get an overspeed, I will slow the aircraft down and let you guys know when we come back. But we're up at cruise. We're setting our cruise speed. We have our top of descent plotted. So now it's just a matter of enjoying the view until we get to our top of descent. So I will catch you guys in about an hour. Alright guys, we are getting close to our top of descent, so I'm going to go ahead and take our altitude and start rolling it down to 13,500 feet. Now we will be continuing past that, so I mean, we could do 13,000, still make the same goal there. Always adjust as needed. But there we go. we go. So we'll just lock that in for now. And looks like we're about 20 miles, give or take. I'm going to go ahead and slow the aircraft down. Oops. Look at the wrong number. Slow it down to Mach 0.8. You can see we're now about 15 miles or so to top of descent. And if we go to our VNAV calculations, you can see there we are. We're 1 minute 30 seconds from top of descent. We're looking at 2,300 feet per minute. So I'll catch you guys in about, oh, it's because we've slowed down. So I'll see you guys in about 2 minutes. See here, we actually have a little bit of a bug. The time of top of distance is indicating that we've already passed it. But we didn't get our alert on the screen yet. But it also doesn't look like we're going to. So we may have ran into a bug, so I'm going to go ahead and start our descent. We're going to keep with the initial 2,300 feet. So I'm going to go vertical speed mode and start bringing it down. Not sure what happened there, but something went wrong. Too weird. Calculations got bugged somehow. Which is a shame, because normally it gives some really cool indications. So this may be a bug with the Cessna Citation Longitude. I believe I remember reading something about that. Maybe I can find that while we're on the descent. But at this point, we'll just be making sure that by Pikes that we're at 13,500. And then we'll be making sure to watch our speed restrictions as we come down on the star. Let's see, we should be able to... Well, no, we haven't gotten to Hawks yet, so... Still got a ways to go before we join, so we'll see you guys in a few minutes here. Okay, so you can see as we're coming down through 28,000, I waited until we start getting the overspeed warnings. As the air becomes more denser, the indicated airspeed is going to get higher and higher. So at this point, once again, we're going to go back to indicated airspeed up in the box. And you can see we're really fast, so we're going to slow this down to 290 knots. And we'll be maintaining this all the way through 18,000 feet. And then we'll be starting to look at 250 knots for 10,000. Now, something that finally happened, it's, like I said, it must be a bug. This is the indication we should have received at the time of starting our top of descent. So you can see we are in VNAV mode, if you will, vertical speed guidance. And what we actually want to do is, you can see this purple caret here, we want to put our descent rate on that caret. So we're actually going to put nose up a little bit. So the blue and the purple and the black all line up together. And that's the idea is to keep those in sync with each other until we reach our target altitude. Okay, so I wanted to give you guys the heads up that the VNAV calculations in the Cessna Citation Longitude is definitely not working well. It keeps turning itself on and off. So this is where you have to double check yourself always. You can see we just passed Hawks, supposed to be above 12,000. We're supposed to be at 13,000 by Pikes. There's no way we're going to make that now. So we're really going to have to crank some things down. So this is where we do some of that pilot stuff. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have to slow the aircraft down. We got to really slow down. So I'm going to get her down at 250 knots now. Then we will also start increasing our descent rate. Now we're going to use a little bit of spoiler action here to help slow the aircraft down a bit. If not, there isn't any way in heck we're going to make our approach altitudes. All right, put that back up. We are super, super high. And if it comes down to it, I'm hoping we can gain whatever we need by here, but we're supposed to be at 6,000 by Vashon. And I don't know. I don't know if we're going to make that. We'll just have to see. For the sake of simulation, we may have to break an altitude restriction here or there in order to complete the flight on time. But yeah, we're supposed to be, we're on the leg. We're 5,000 feet above target. So let's go ahead and hit B to set our barometric pressure. Looks like 29908. And we're going to be passing Pikes momentarily, 20 seconds. So I'm going to increase our descent rate to about 3,000 feet per minute. As our next target, we need to be between 10 and 11,000 by Bereave. So we've got a minute, but we don't have long. Definitely don't have long. This is all going to start to happen pretty quickly. Let's set our nav radio up for the ILS approach. And that was 16 left. And we're looking at 1103. Oh, looks like it's already there. That's good. All right, let's press enter. All right, so we're good to go there. Let's see where we're at. So we're coming past 14,000. See, it's showing us we're descending fast now. Oh, gosh. I need to increase my altitude descent. Let's set this down to 6,000. We're going to go back into vertical speed. I think we can go ahead now and start bringing those back up again. Notice how VNAV's working again, so it was something between the two locations that it did not like. And I wonder if I should have set... Probably should have changed the direct, VNAV direct waypoint to the Vashon right from the start, and instead it was using Pikes. I don't think I should have done that. So that could have been an error on my part. The fact that it was turning on and off, though, was still real weird and buggy, so... Always double check everything. Alright, so at Bereave, we cannot be below, what did I say, 10,000, right? Yeah, can't be below 10,000, but we need to be below 11,000. So yeah, that's still not going to work. Come on, baby. Down, 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 down. After this, we should get back on course here, but 700 feet to fall, and then I can level us out a little bit. Oof. And see, estimated time of arrival is counting up here. That doesn't make any sense. Alright. So let's bring this back up. Set this at about 1,000 feet per minute for the moment. Actually, no, we won't. 15 miles, 20 miles from our target here. We're going to keep on descending through. So we are descending through 10,000 feet. So at this point, landing lights come back on. We need to start. We'll be thinking about our landing calculations here in a minute. Alright, so we're getting down to about 8,000 here, so now it's time for us to really start. Let's keep that altitude going down to 6,000. To start prepping for, I think we can bring that up. Start prepping for our landing. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is take our chart here and find out our weights in order to determine our approach speeds. We have VREF and the approach speed itself. So let's pull up our weights and balances here, and we're going to see what our current weight is. We're at 28,315 pounds. I'm going to be moving real quick here because time is of the essence. 28,000, that's 29,500. So you could, again, you could do the math. I'm going to round 160. Yeah, we can pretty much call it as is. I think I'm going to do 113 and 125 is what we're going to call this one. So again, coming down to our speed bugs, fast way to get to it from the pilot TSC. And what did I say? We're doing 113. And, oh, nope, that's wrong. Sorry. 125 on the approach speed and 113 on the reference speed. Turn our speed bugs on. Good to go there. Altitude set. Looks like we're going to meet our altitude requirement as planned, which is good. And soon we'll be ready to start bringing her around for the approach. So all is looking well. Quick check of everything. Lights are looking good. Everything else is set. Still nav, VNAV. Good. All right. So not too bad. We got that done pretty quickly. And again, we're going to meet our target altitude at Vashon. So that is definitely a bonus. I'm going to take this down to 10 nautical miles for the ring. All right. So this is perfect, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'll see you at Griffey as we start making our turn onto the final approach, in which case we'll activate the approach mode, and we'll be switching over to the localizer as our nav source. So I'll see you guys shortly. Okay, so even though we only have 24 seconds to go here, something I missed, almost missed, is we need to be down at 210 knots by Vashon. So we're going to slow her down very quickly. Now, anything below 250 knots, we need to be at flaps 1. Anything below 230 knots, flaps 2. So there's flaps 2, and we'll remain at flaps 2 until 180 knots. You may have started to notice the plane started to bank. When you reach this user waypoint, you need to make sure that at that point you have activated your approach mode. So basically, once we passed over Vashon, I should have activated the approach mode. I got a little distracted there by our speed. So anyway, just make sure that you guys watch for that. If you ever into that situation where all of a sudden you start turning around after you hit your final fix, you just need to come in here, go to your procedures, and activate the approach. And then you'll resume your flight. So we'll see you guys again in just a few minutes here. All right, we are turning towards our final approach here. So what I'm going to do is switch our nav source from the FMS to the localizer. And I'm also going to activate the approach mode. And a good indication that you have the localizer available is you'll see it right down here. And we're about 22 miles out. So we're a little far away to intercept the glide slope. Oh, as I was speaking, there it is. So we're a little below it, so the aircraft's going to maintain altitude at this point. You need to make sure that if you're ever in a current descent at the time this is acquired, if you're using vertical speed, make sure you always disable vertical speed once you see the glide slope available. Otherwise, the flight computer will be ignored as far as your descent rate. So you'll never acquire the glide slope. So once this is locked up, once you see your green glide slope and you see your glide slope diamond, make sure you disable vertical speed and go into the approach mode. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and arm our spoilers. And you can see the aircraft has locked onto the glide slope and is starting the descent. want to take us down in speed to 190 knots. That's pretty. According to this, we have a plane coming in behind us. I don't see anybody. Could be buried in those clouds. I just changed our altimeter again. You can see it changed down to 3005 for the approach. We're now inside 10 miles, so I'm going to lower the landing gear. I'm going to go flaps 3, and I'm going to take our speed down to the reference speed. Now we should be able to switch it to the FMS. Nope. Disregard. So I'm going to take us down to 125 knots. Alright, so we're on a 6-mile final here. We are fully configured. We're at our approach speed. Flaps are full. Speed brakes are armed. We are ready to take control very shortly here. Got our missed approach altitude set in the box. Traffic out here looks like maybe a helicopter. Oh yeah, we have an aircraft out there. There he is. Alright. Disengaging autopilot. Disengaging the auto throttle. Looking for our reference speed.
50.
And flare. Alright, wheels down, reversers out. reverses back in. Let's get off the runway for that incoming traffic. Let's get the aircraft cleaned up. So we got flaps coming up, taxi lights on, landing lights off, pulse lights off. And I think that's all we need. Let's peek over here again. Yep, we're good there. All right, so at this point, we would just taxi to our gate and shut down. Spoilers are disarmed, good. Well, guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it here. I hope you guys enjoyed this flight. I certainly did. It was a good time. I really recommend you guys getting further in touch with the Longitude. Once you learn how to fly her and get more familiar with it, it's actually a lot of fun to fly. I really don't have the issues that we used to have with it. I think the biggest issues with flying the Longitude now is just she's tricky. She's tricky. She flies different than I think any other aircraft that we have at the moment, but it's a lot of fun. It really is. It flies very nicely once you learn how it wants to behave. All right, guys. Well, as always, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next one.